Have you ever heard a scream that didn't come from a throat, but from glass? There's a jar sitting in someone's home right now, sealed, humming, waiting to be opened. And the moment it is, something disappears. This is the true story of Lena Voss, a podcaster who thought she was chasing an urban legend, until the legend whispered her name back. And once you hear your own scream before it happens, there's no way out. She didn't scream out of fear. She screamed because she knew no one would ever believe her, and now someone else has the jar. Would you open it? Part 1. The jar that shouldn't exist. My name is Lena Voss. I run a podcast called Cracked Glass, where I dig into urban legends, missing persons, and unsolved mysteries. Most of it's bullshit, let's be honest. Clickbait for thrill chasers and insomnia addicts, but sometimes a story sticks. And not because it's true, but because it feels like it wants to be, like it's waiting to become real the moment you believe in it. This one started as a throwaway segment. A Reddit thread titled "He Sells Screams in Jars" had gone viral. The story? A pale man with a cart appears in alleyways only at night. No one sees him arrive. He lays out a wooden crate filled with fogged-over glass jars, each sealed with wax. Inside, screams. Actual recorded screams. You can't hear them unless you open the jar. And when you do, something happens. According to the thread, one guy opened a jar while streaming. His camera picked up the noise, a scream so loud and distorted it made the audio peak violently, and then he vanished off screen, never came back. The video ends with his chair spinning slowly and a long shadow moving across the wall behind him. Creepy, sure, but I've seen better hoaxes. Probably AI-enhanced garbage meant to go viral. I covered it briefly, made a few sarcastic remarks, and moved on. 3 days later, I got a package, no return address, just my name on a yellow tag, tied with twine. Inside, wrapped in thick grey cloth, was a jar, a real one, cold to the touch, glass smudged like it had been handled with gloved fingers. The lid was sealed with dark red wax. Tied to its neck was a note in precise handwriting. This one waited for you. B. I should have thrown it out right then. I know, but curiosity is a parasite. Once it latches, it feeds. I set the jar on my desk, stared at it under my recording light. I ran a magnet around it, checked for hidden speakers. Nothing. Just a glass jar, slightly cloudy inside, with something swirling in it like smoke. Or maybe something that wanted to look like smoke. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the people in those posts, about what they claimed they heard. One described a scream that sounded like it had been yanked out of someone mid-breath, cut short, but still echoing. Another said theirs whispered afterward, something in a language no one should speak. By 2:43 a.m., I cracked. I lit a candle. Silly, right? Like I needed to make it feel like a ritual. I placed the jar in front of me, turned on my mic, habit, and slowly broke the wax seal with a butter knife. For a second, nothing. Just a faint pop as the seal gave way, then it started. The sound that came out wasn't just a scream. It was wrong, too layered, like multiple people screaming over one another, but not all human. One voice sounded like a child, another like a man gasping through crushed lungs, and beneath that, a tone I can't explain. Not a scream, more like a frequency that went through me rather than around me. It was over in seconds, but the silence that followed felt heavier, like the room had been altered, stretched. My breath steamed in the air, even though the heat was on. I backed away, stumbled into my kitchen. My nose was bleeding. Not a lot, just enough to make my heart skip. My reflection in the microwave looked delayed, like I moved, and it followed a second too late. I didn't sleep. Not properly. I kept drifting in and out, hearing that noise in the back of my skull, that broken, layered scream. When I finally did fall under, I found myself walking through a place I'd never seen before. The ground was wet, black stone. Walls towered above me, angled, windowless buildings pressing inward like they were leaning, down to listen. There were no stars, but the sky pulsed a deep, sickly blue, like it was breathing, and something followed me. I never saw it. I just heard its steps, always just behind my own. Slow, deliberate, dragging something sharp. I turned, corners, ran, found myself at dead ends that hadn't been there before. The walls grew tighter, narrower, until I had to squeeze sideways between them. And still, it followed. Eventually, I woke. My sheets were damp. My feet were muddy. Actual mud. Black grit clung to my soles, still wet. I checked every door, every window, locked. No signs of entry, no broken glass. But the jar was gone, not shattered, not misplaced, just gone. In its place was a new note. Same handwriting. That was your first taste. He remembers you now. I didn't go into the studio that day. I didn't record. I didn't answer emails. I sat in my hallway with the lights on, a kitchen knife in one hand, and the first 3 seasons of Frasier playing on loop just to feel normal. I told myself I hallucinated the whole thing, that the jar was a prank, that I dropped it and forgot, that my brain made up the rest. But even now, days later, I can feel it, the weight of being seen, like someone opened a door inside my life and something ancient peered in. And I think it's still watching me, from the corner, from behind closed doors, from the black between blinks. And the worst part, I can still hear it, the scream. Not the sound of it, the shape of it. It's inside me now, and it's starting to echo. Part 2, the alley that moves. After that night, the scream wouldn't leave me. Not the sound itself. I'd only heard it once, but the impression it left, like a fingerprint scorched into my nerves. It followed me into silence, into my dreams, even into moments of comfort, like the brain couldn't accept anything safe anymore without questioning what was waiting just outside it. I told myself I needed answers, but the truth? I needed to control it. I needed to believe it was fake, that someone was messing with me, that it was all just some elaborate ARG, some twisted little project meant to scare the gullible. So I did what I do. I investigated. The phrase "man with the scream jars" had a dozen variations across forums, comment chains, anonymous posts on encrypted boards. Most were copy-paste stories, low-effort scarebait, but a few felt different. No big claims, just quiet, shaky. Accounts posted at 3 a.m. One stood out. A user called Blackmire67 wrote, "You don't find him. The alley finds you. But if you want to be found, go to the place the city forgot." Cryptic nonsense, I thought. But it echoed in my head like a riddle. I dug deeper, ran searches on terms like traveling alley, disappearing streets, moving markets. Odd thing, there were records, old ones, newspaper clippings going back to the 30s, all different cities. Always the same line somewhere in the article. Authorities found the body in an alley that doesn't appear on any map. I traced the most recent post to a district on the edge of the city, Marlow Quarter. It used to be an industrial hub before a fire wiped out half the warehouses. Since then, it'd become one of those places people pass through with their windows rolled up. I went at night, not out of bravery. I just had a gut feeling. Whatever this was, it wouldn't show itself at noon under blue skies. The streets narrowed the deeper I walked. Streetlights blinked in and out like they were breathing. At some point, I noticed the city noise had stopped. No cars, no music, just my footsteps and a hush that felt too complete, like the buildings themselves were holding their breath. Then I saw it. To my left, where there had been only brick seconds ago, was a narrow alleyway. I turned in place, heart hammering. I'd looked at that wall a moment earlier. It had been solid. Now there was an opening, shadowed, flickering with amber light like gas lamps. And at the far end, a cart. It looked like something from another century. Hand-carved, worn wood, draped in faded red cloth. On top, rows of glass jars, all fogged, their contents shifting like smoke caught underwater. And behind it, the vendor. He stood completely still. Not rigid, just wrong. Like a photograph pretending to breathe. Pale skin, too pale. Like he hadn't seen sunlight in decades. Hair the color of dust. His eyes were sunken, dark, but alert. Watching me like he already knew everything I was going to say. I stepped closer, mouth dry, voice ready to demand answers. But he spoke first. "You hear the one meant for you?" he asked. I stopped. My voice caught. He smiled slightly. "It always leaves a mark." I couldn't respond. My tongue felt too big in my mouth, and something in my chest had begun to throb, like a warning, like instinct screaming through layers of logic. He lifted one of the jars slowly and held it out toward me. I didn't move. He didn't step forward, just held it there, arm impossibly still. "This one," he said, "hasn't happened yet." I stared at it. Inside, the fog twisted, just slightly faster than before. I thought I saw a flash of color, a hint of red, like blood blooming underwater. My body pulled me back before my brain did. One step, then two. Then I turned and ran. I didn't look back. Not once. When I finally stumbled out of the alley, gasping for air, it was gone. Just brick, wall again, seamless, like it had never been there. I drove home shaking, gripping the wheel like it might fly away if I didn't hold it down. Every shadow on the sidewalk looked like a man with a cart. Every face I passed could have been his. The silence in the car was unbearable. I turned the radio on, just to drown out the echo of his voice. But I wasn't alone. When I got home, the jar was on my desk. I swear to you, I hadn't taken it. I had left it there, in his hand. I hadn't touched it. But there it was, sitting on top of my notes like it had always belonged there. This one hadn't happened yet. I should have destroyed it. Instead, I sat down, put on my headphones, and like the fool every horror story needs, I opened it. This scream wasn't like the first. It was deeper, clearer, familiar. It sounded like me, not just someone who sort of resembled my voice. No, this was my scream, distorted, choked, terrified, and beneath it, barely audible, was a dragging sound, metal on concrete, chains maybe, or nails. I froze, not because I was afraid. I was already well past afraid, but because I could picture it. I could see myself screaming, my mouth wide, my body flailing against something I couldn't fight. I saw a wall, a rusted door, and a figure stepping out from behind it. Then the scream cut. Dead silence. I ripped the headphones off. I sat there for hours, just breathing, trying to feel real, trying to tell myself it didn't mean anything, but I knew better. The vendor hadn't given me a scream. He'd given me a preview. This one hasn't happened yet. That's what he said, which means it will. And now, I'm waiting for it. Waiting for the moment that scream becomes real. Waiting for the door, the chains, the pain, the part of me I lose when it happens. And worst of all, part of me wants to go back. Because if that alley moves, maybe I can find it again. And maybe, just maybe, I can stop it before it happens, before I scream. Part 3. Screams have names. There's a moment in every investigation where the pieces stop drifting and begin to point. And when they do, they don't form a picture, they form a door. And the moment you open it, nothing in your life fits anymore. That moment came for me 2 weeks after I opened the second jar. I stopped sleeping through the night. Not because of the scream, not anymore, but because of the absence of sound. The quiet became oppressive, like something was waiting in it. I'd find myself sitting bolt upright at 2:11 a.m. every night, heart racing, staring at my closet door, knowing that nothing was behind it, and being equally sure that nothing wanted to be. I needed answers. I reached out to people who'd posted anonymously about the jars. Most didn't respond. One sent back an empty message, just a blank email with an attachment I didn't dare open. But 3 people said yes. 3 voices, 3 stories, each worse than the last. The first was a man named Caleb. He lived out in New Mexico in a double-wide trailer surrounded by desert. His voice shook the entire time we spoke. He told me he bought his jar off a kid selling fireworks out of a cardboard box behind a pawn shop. Said the kid didn't blink, didn't even ask for money, just said, "Yours is overdue." He opened the jar that night. The scream was brief, wet-sounding, gurgled. He didn't recognize it, not at first, but then the thing came back. His old stepfather, the man who used to lock him in the well house when he misbehaved. Dead 10 years now. Found hanging from a meat hook in an abandoned barn after being accused of hurting other children. Caleb said he woke up to the smell of blood and kerosene. Found the front door open. His stepfather was standing in the hallway, wearing the same clothes he was buried in, except his hands were clean. Caleb locked himself in the bathroom for 2 days. He said it didn't knock. It scraped, like it didn't understand how doors worked anymore. When he finally opened the door, nothing was there. But the hallway carpet had dents, like someone had been kneeling just outside the door, waiting. He cried when I asked what happened after. He whispered, "I think he's still in the walls." The second person was a woman named Lena from Baltimore. She found her jar in a thrift store tucked between 2 vintage porcelain dolls. Hers sounded like her mother, except her mother had been dead for 6 years. Lena described a scream that ended in a whisper, one that said her name twice, and then something in a language she didn't understand. That night, her apartment filled with the scent of her mother's perfume, violets and camphor. She woke to the sound of the stove clicking, and there her mother was, standing in the kitchen, skin too tight, too bright. Her eyes were open, but didn't blink. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to say something, but forgot how. She walked backwards, every step jerky, like a puppet with tangled strings. When Lena followed her into the hallway, the lights began to buzz and the walls started to peel. She tried to record it. Her phone exploded. She sent me a picture of the scorch mark. I still haven't looked at it for more than a second, and the last interview, I never got to finish. A college student named Mira emailed me after hearing my podcast mention the jars, said she had one and hadn't opened it yet, wanted to talk before she did. We scheduled a call for 9 p.m. on a Thursday. She didn't show. At 9:17 p.m. she texted one word, opened, nothing else. Her number's out of service now. Her dorm roommate says she packed a bag and left that night. Never said where she was going, but someone else posted a video from a different state the next day, downtown Philadelphia. Manhole cover blasts upward. A woman, blurry in the frame, runs into traffic screaming. Her voice. I swear it was Mira's, and I started noticing the pattern. All the stories, all the jars. Every single one traced back to a scream, a real one. And afterward, without exception, every person disappeared. And then, in a different city, a scream. A stranger screaming in public, like something snapped inside them, like something left. It's not just that the jars contain screams, it's that they're collecting them, harvesting them. Moments of agony, loss, or death, bottled and moved along, like cursed artifacts. And the man with the cart, he isn't just selling sound, he's selling moments, endings. Every jar is someone's final breath, or their deepest terror, or their last memory before everything goes black. And the worst part, they're spreading, like spores. I found photos online of people holding jars in cities I've never visited. Comments that say, I didn't open mine, but it keeps getting warmer. threads that vanish hours after they're posted, and always a whisper of the man. Sometimes he's described as tall, sometimes short, but always pale. Always with the cart, and always with the same line. This one's for you. I can't tell what's worse anymore. That I know what's coming, or that I don't know how to stop it. Because if the screams are real, if they're echoes of horror given form, then maybe each jar isn't just a recording. Maybe it's a seed, and something is planting them, and soon they'll bloom. Part 4. The Collector's Story. I thought I was prepared. After everything I'd seen, everything I'd heard, I thought I knew what horror looked like. I thought it came in screams and shadows, in jars and alleys that shouldn't exist. But the truth? The real horror isn't the scream. It's the silence right before it. The kind that tells you something is watching and waiting. I went back to the alley, the one that moves, the one that found me the first time. It wasn't on any map, still isn't, but I remembered the turns, the landmarks, the places where the air went still and the world got thin. I followed the quiet, and eventually, it opened. No gaslights this time, just dim, sickly moonlight and the faint scent of rotting wood. The cart was gone, the jars were gone, and so was he, the vendor, the man they call the collector. But something pulled me forward, something stronger than fear, a presence, almost magnetic, like I wasn't walking on my own anymore. The alley ended at a wall that hadn't been there before, a high stone arch, crumbling but intact, covered in soot and graffiti. Behind it, a building I hadn't seen the last time. A church once, by the look of it. Now a ruin. Its steeple half collapsed, its windows blackened. I stepped through the doors. The inside wasn't a church anymore. It was a theatre. Rows of velvet-covered chairs faced a stage made of splintering boards. Tattered curtains swayed in wind that had no source. And above, in the rafters, hundreds of small ropes dangled, each ending in a hook. No lights, but I could see, because the jars glowed, thousands of them, lining the pews, hanging from the ceiling, stacked in niches where stained glass used to be. Every one of them softly illuminated from within, flickering like dying stars. And inside each one, the fog moved, twisting, pressing against the glass, like it wanted out. I walked down the aisle, every step echoing like a scream swallowed by time. Then I saw the plaque. It was nailed crookedly to the back wall behind the stage. One word carved into it. Offerings. That's when I heard the voice. Old, brittle, wet, like lungs filled with dust. You shouldn't be here. I turned. An old man in threadbare priest's robes stood in the balcony above me, leaning on a cracked wooden railing. His eyes were clouded but not blind. They followed me with a kind of desperate clarity. He came down the steps like his bones were breaking with each motion. You're not the first to follow him here, he said. But you'll be the last. He's moved. On. He always does when the nest is full. I asked him who he was. The priest smiled without humor. The collector, he said. A man once, like you, curious, hungry for what hid behind the veil. He walked past me, into the shadows behind the stage, and beckoned me to follow. I did. There was a hidden room, narrow, long, like a corridor, made of nightmares. The walls were covered in shelves, and the shelves were covered in jars, each one labeled. Some had names I recognized, missing persons from across the country, victims, suspects, even celebrities, and others were blank, as if their owners hadn't happened yet. He made a deal, the priest said softly, traded what little humanity he had to the ones below in exchange for immortality and harvest rights. I asked him what that meant. He harvests fear, he said. Pain, moments of perfect crystalline terror. Screams are the purest form. They hold the shape of suffering, the resonance of loss. They don't just echo, they contain. He looked at me then. Really looked. And I saw the flicker of recognition in his eyes. "You've opened one," he said. "Maybe more. I can see it in your shadow." I nodded. I didn't speak. I couldn't. "He's marked you," the priest continued. "He doesn't need you dead. He needs you ripe. He waits until the moment is perfect, until your fear ferments. Then he takes you, and he takes the scream." I asked why no one stops him. The priest smiled again, that same hollow, hopeless curve of the lips. "Because no one believes in devils with carts anymore." I asked him why he stayed. "To bear witness," he whispered, "to record the names, so the world remembers who screamed." That's when I saw it, a jar on the very top shelf, nestled in a space like it had been carved specifically for it, labeled in neat, inhuman handwriting, Lena Voss, Final. I stared at it. My blood froze. The fog inside it wasn't fog. It was moving, like it was alive. I don't remember climbing the shelf. I don't remember touching it. Only the cold. The moment I held it, something shifted in the room. The jars around me hummed, soft, like breath held too long. The air got heavier, wetter, electric. And the priest, he screamed, "No! Don't take it! You can't know your end! If you hear it, you become it!" But it was too late. I was already running, out of the corridor, through the theatre, into the street. I didn't stop until I was home, panting, shaking. The jar clutched to my chest like a cursed relic, and now it sits on my desk, glowing faintly, whispering sometimes when I turn the lights out. I haven't opened it yet. I don't know what I'll hear, but I know this much. If it's my final scream, then that means it hasn't happened yet. And every second that passes, it's getting closer. Part 5. Listening to her own end. There are moments you can't take back. Moments where you don't just cross a line, you erase it, burn the map, tear down the sign that said, "Turn back now." I opened the jar, my jar, the one labeled Lena Voss, Final. I waited until it was night, until the city outside was quiet and my apartment was still. I turned off the lights, sat in the center of my room. The jar sat on my rug like it had always belonged there. And then I twisted the lid. The scream hit me like a wave, and it was mine, undeniably, unmistakably mine. But I'd never made that sound before. It wasn't pain, it wasn't fear, it was recognition. It was the sound of knowing in an instant that your death has arrived and it knows your name. Then came the whisper, my name, twice, then again. But the third time wasn't English. It wasn't language as we understand it. It scraped the inside of my skull like glass dragged across wet stone. Each syllable felt like a hook sliding behind my eyes. And then, chains, dragging across something ancient, something hollow and endless. And beneath it, behind it, slithering, not snake-like, not insect, something with flesh and bone and too many limbs, something that didn't crawl because it had never needed to evolve to move like we do. The jar went still, the light inside, it died, but something else started, a pressure, like the air in the room had thickened, curdled. My heart thudded once, and then stopped for half a second, like it was listening. Then came the visions, not dreams, not hallucinations. These were invasions. I saw Caleb, the man from the desert, but not as he'd been on the call. He stood in my hallway, skin cracked like desert earth, eyes gone completely black. His mouth was open too wide, dislocated, and from it came the sound of his scream, repeating, backwards, like someone was rewinding his last breath. I turned, and Rena was in my kitchen. She moved in reverse, each step jerking like it hurt. Her arms twitched, bones sharp under the skin, as if they'd been snapped and badly reset. She kept mouthing the words, "Don't listen," but no sound came out. just flies, hundreds of them, pouring from her lips like ash. The walls of my apartment changed, the paint bubbled, the floor felt wet. I stumbled back toward my desk, toward the jar, but it was gone. No, moved, shifted 2 feet to the left, as if something had picked it up and set it down again. And then, the door creaked, my apartment door. It opened. I didn't move, I couldn't. A shape stood in the frame. No face, no features, just the suggestion of a man. Tall, bent at the neck, shoulders wrong, too high, hands that hung too low. Like he'd been designed by someone who only heard about humans but had never seen one. And around him, chains. Thin, whispering chains that coiled and shifted like they were alive, like snakes that breathe metal. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. He didn't walk. He arrived. With each blink of my eyes, he was closer. First in the doorway, then halfway through the living room, then right in front of me. I didn't see his face. I couldn't. My eyes refused to focus. But I knew this. He wasn't the vendor. He was something worse. The one behind the jars. The one the collector worked for. The architect of the scream trade. And I had let him in. He leaned close, and from somewhere behind the skin of the world, I heard a whisper. My own voice, not speaking, but pleading. Then, silence. Everything in. The room went still again. When I opened my eyes, he was gone. But he left the door open, and something else behind. The air hasn't gone back to normal since. It clings to me now. My apartment hums faintly, like it's holding its breath. And when I speak out loud, my voice echoes. Just a beat too late. Like something is practicing it. I haven't slept in days. Not because I'm afraid of dreams, but because I'm afraid of waking up and finding the door open again, and this time, something staying. I know I'm marked now. I feel it in my teeth, in the ache behind my ears, in the tremble that starts in my spine whenever I walk by the mirror and something else moves a second after I do. And the worst part, I keep the jar. Even, now, empty, cold, but not dead, because sometimes when everything is quiet, I hear it breathing. Part 6. A new scream for the shelf. You can feel when it's time, not by clocks or calendars, but by the way the world quiets around you, the way sounds pull away, the way shadows start to stretch in directions they shouldn't. I knew it was time when the hallway mirror didn't reflect me anymore. It reflected someone waiting. I packed nothing, took nothing, no phone, no recorder. Just the scream still echoing in my bones, and the weight of everything I'd learned. I went back to the alley, and just like before, it was waiting for me, right where it shouldn't be. Between 2 buildings I'd walked past 100 times without seeing. No signs, no doors, just darkness leaking between bricks. It opened for me. Inside, the gas lights burned low. The cart was back. The wood blackened. The wheels rotted. And behind it, him, the vendor, the collector. His face hadn't changed, but now I could see it. Really see it. Skin too pale, like wax left too long in the sun. His eyes were holes filled with soft static. His smile didn't stretch his lips. It stretched the space around him, like reality bent to make room for his grin. He didn't speak at first, just watched. Then finally, that voice, dry as dust, wet as rot. "You've heard it now," he said. "The shape of your end. It has weight, flavor. You've aged well, Lena Voss." I asked him what he wanted. He leaned forward, fingers drumming on the edge of the cart. "You," he said. "But not all of you. Just the best part." I didn't answer. He opened a drawer beneath the cart, took out an empty jar, held it like a holy object. "You can walk away," he offered, "but you'll never be clean. You'll be hollow, echoing forever. Or," he set the jar down, "give me one scream, one true scream, and I'll unmark you. You'll never see me again." I almost laughed. I almost told him I had no screams left, but then I understood. He didn't want fear, not anymore. He wanted despair. He wanted the sound someone makes when the last candle goes out, when they realize no one's coming to help. No one's going to believe them. When they know they'll carry the truth like a parasite, no one else can see. He wanted that moment, that flavor. And the worst part, he was right. I gave it to him. Not for freedom, not for peace, but because I had nothing left but the sound. It tore out of me, not loud, not violent, just long, like a thread unraveling from a coat you didn't notice was coming apart. It wasn't fear of death, it was the sound of being erased. The vendor closed the jar, sealed it with a twist of his wrist. It glowed once, then dimmed. He smiled, and then everything disappeared. The alley, the cart, him, just gone. I woke up in my apartment, or something that looked like it, but it felt emptier, quieter. I don't dream anymore, not really. Sometimes I think I hear something in the walls, something pacing, something with chains, but I don't check, I don't speak, I don't scream, because now I know how valuable that is, how dangerous. I thought that would be the end, but endings are illusions. They only happen to the people who leave. A few days later, a new video started circulating. It wasn't viral yet, just floating in the smaller corners of the net. A reaction clip, a mystery box opening, some bored content creator in another city, a woman, young, curious, too curious. She holds up a strange, dusty jar someone mailed to her. No return address. She says it smells like copper. She says it pulses when she touches it. She grins at the camera. I bet it's fake, she says. But if I vanish, someone start a thread about me, okay? She opens it. The scream is short. One sharp burst of pain and loss, distorted like it's been aged for years. And then, my voice. Soft, hollow, from inside the jar. Please don't open it. A pause. Then, quieter. He's still listening. The video ends. But I know she didn't. She's started. Because the jars never really stay sealed. They just wait for new shelves. If you hear a knock tonight and no one's there, don't answer. Some screams travel farther than you think. There are more stories waiting. Buried in forgotten towns, locked behind old doors, whispered by voices that don't belong to the living. So don't stop here. Like the video if you felt the chill. Share it with someone who sleeps with the lights off. And subscribe to Haunted Echoes, because the next scream might already have your name on it.